Welcome to this week's episode of Thrive Live. It's lovely to be back here with you again after a little bit of a break last week. For those of you that do not know me, that are not familiar with me, my name is Cora Darlington and I am a burnout breakthrough specialist. I work with entrepreneurial women, visionary women that are really ready to create a new paradigm between the balance between their careers and their home lives, their personal lives and their well-being. Even though I do work specifically with those types of women, the things that I talk about in these episodes can be applied right across the board, pretty much for all of us. So episode 5 then, if you are feeling like your life is not your own, it's not. So what do I mean by that? So we're going to jump into that in a sec. But first of all, as always, I'm going to let you know that as soon as today's episode is, there will be a few links in the comments box. One is going to be a link to book a call with me. And some of you might really want to do that when you find out that I'm opening the doors to something really, really exciting on the 11th of November. So you're going to want to jump on that. And also, I always put a booking link in to book a free masterclass with me. So when you book a free masterclass with me, you get some space and time with me, and I give you lots of tools and strategies to get your life really working for you. So those things will be in the box after that. So here we go. What do I mean by your life is not your own? It's a really big, bold statement to make, but it is so often true. So what we don't know is that we are very, very influenced by the external world. Our culture telling us how it should be, giving us a very strict framework for how our lives should be and what is possible for us, and our parents telling us how it should be, who we are, and what is possible for us. Okay, so from the minute that we are born, it begins. The institutionalization is what I call it. So, it begins when we go to nursery or we go to school, right? And we're told you need to be in school at this time, your breaks are this time, your lunchtime is this time, your home time is this time. And there it is. And then very often then we go to work and it is exactly the same thing. We're told what time to clock in. We're told what time to go for lunch. We're told what time to finish. And when we look around, everybody else is doing the same thing. So culturally, we get an inherited kind of framework for life and work. And without really realizing it, we just enter into that. The other thing that happens is we inherit stories about ourselves, right? So, or we create stories about ourselves as we go through our lives. So things like not academic enough. So I definitely inherited a story from a statement that my mum made about me when I was younger, which was Cora is very creative, but she's not particularly academic, right? So that was a story that I, without question, took upon myself and believed that to be true. Other things like not pretty enough, too loud, too much, too bright, too quiet. And it goes on and it goes on, right? Okay, so you'll know what stories have either been handed down to you, other people's opinions, external people's opinions, or you've created for yourself during your life. And all of that messaging creates a framework for what is possible for us in our own lives. Okay, we adopt all of those things. So the framework for life and work, the stories about ourselves. It begins to really color what we believe to be possible for ourselves as a person and what is possible for ourselves as we create our lives. So when I begin to work with my clients on the piece of work that I call life architecture, which is where they're designing life and business on their terms, it can be a real stretch for people to come outside of the box and see and believe that something else is possible for them. I see it all the time because we're institutionalized. We only think it can go so many ways because that's what we see around us, right? That's what we've been told, and that's what we see around us all the time. So today is going to be a really short, sharp one because I really want you to be with quite a big question. All right. And this is a question, if you can be with it and you can answer it, opens up quite a lot of realizations for you. Okay. So the question is, if I let go of the stories I have about myself, so if I can just let go the inherited, created stories that I have about myself, what would be possible for me? What would be possible for me? Who would I be free to be? Now, I want to give you an example of this because this question was asked to me a couple of years ago, and I did an amazing immersion course for about 3 days. And when I really got present to the stories that had been told to me, so for instance, like the one about me being academic, in the story of I am not very academic, it became impossible for me to be academic because I wouldn't apply to myself to those things. But if I let go of that story, what is possible for me is like a whole new world. Like, really. So if you let go of the story, I'm too much, for instance, what would you be free to be? I'm betting you'd be free to be much more self-expressed and much more yourself than ever. Because the truth bomb here is everything is possible. It is all possible, but only when we let go of these inherited frameworks and structures, and we let go of these stories that we have about ourselves. When we're able to do that, it opens the door to like a brave, brave new world. And we actually realize how much we've been limiting ourselves. When I became, really clear about the things that I thought about myself, and let them go, my life really, really opened up for me. When I looked outside of the way of working that I've been told is the way of working, and really created my life and my business with what I saw fit, with what I saw possible, life really, really opened up for me. So I really want you to be with those questions. Like I said, super sharp episode today, but I really want you to look at your life, your business, and have a look at what you consciously signed up to. Did you consciously sign up to any of it, or did you kind of just inherit it? Did you consciously decide what you are capable of and who you are, or did you inherit that by other people's opinions of you, observations of you, things that people said? Take a look, because often, we are not at the center of our own lives. We're not consciously creating our own lives. We're not consciously pioneering our own lives. What we're doing is living everybody else's idea of how our lives should be. So, episode upon episode, I keep on pointing back to the fact that in order for your life to really work for you, it's an internal job. It takes you taking your eyes off what the external world is saying and turning inward and asking yourself questions. That is why we can't every single week, I'm asking you to ask yourself questions, because you've got the answers to all of this. You really have got all of the answers. And so I really want you to ask yourself those questions. So if I let go of the stories I have about myself, because we've all got them, right? Everybody's got stories that they've got about themselves. What would be possible for me? Okay. Who would I be free to be? Big, powerful questions, but it opens up an awful lot for ourselves. Answering those questions really is the start of you becoming the architect of your own life and business, just free of all external interference and conditioning, because a lot of this is conditioning. I think I spoke a few episodes ago about a client of mine that had who's an adventurer at heart. She really is. If you spoke to her, she lights up when she talks about sailing and all of those things. But yet when she was showing me her business plan, none of that there was no space and time for any of that. And then when we sat down to do the life architecture, and I said to her, well, what about you work in your business for 9 months of the year, but you sail around the world, which is something that you love to do, for the other 3 months? Like, what about that? And it doesn't really occur to us. It doesn't occur to us that it could be different. And so I just really want everybody to, if your life is your life, that's great, but I want you to consciously sign up for it, because your life does get to go how you want it to go. Very often we're not asking ourselves those questions. We're not thinking outside of the box. We're not thinking outside of what has already been possible for us. So when somebody asked me those questions a few years ago, it was mind-blowing for me because I was blocked in by so many stories that I had about myself, so many limitations that I had just adopted, and it changed me when I moved beyond them. So I really wanted that for you too. So that is it for today. Remember, as soon as this finishes now, I'm going to be putting those links in the box, and I will see you next week.